Hi, folks. Well, good evening. Moose here. Thanks for coming and spending a little time with me here on the live broadcast. Hey, so here in the office, I am busy doing all sorts of fun things, such as working, getting caught up because I'm about to hit the road and be gone for 5 weeks again. So, hence tonight's theme, packing for photographic travel. So I'm going to start off with a little plug. We just got them in. Our beautiful challenge coins. We have a limited number, and those people who are so kind to donate to normandybound.com in our documentary receive this gorgeous bad boy. Now, it's 2 inches in diameter. It's a big challenge coin. You can see it's got a little bit of a concave to it. That's because of the map that's on here. It's a gorgeous coin that Brent designed. It's one of his best. So hey, it's here, and hopefully, people will sit there and contribute. Now it's a limited number, and we've only got about 40 left for people who contribute $50 or more. So that's normandybound.com. Well, remember to keep up with what's going on here, to subscribe when you can. Okay, click on the YouTube thing, hit subscribe. And of course, you can always find me in those locations. Remember, I like to use the KISS theorem. Keep it simple, stupid. So at Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, Moose Peterson. And of course, Facebook, the website, moosepeterson.com. And if you want to email me, because I answer all my emails, moose@moosepeterson.com. So you can find me. So, hey, I see a whole bunch of people are popping in. Hey, good dog. Good to have you back. Tim, thanks. Krishna, hey, good to have you along. I'm doing pretty good. You can see my nose still a little sunburned from Florida last week. First day out, and I was point blank so excited. I forgot to put the sunblock on, and we got back to the hotel room, and that was a 1 a.m. getting back to the hotel room, and Brent said, hey, Dad, forget the sunblock? So I'm still paying for it. So anyway, red nose, too late for Rudolph, but hey, I'm practicing for Christmas coming up. Hey Matt, hey, great to see you, and thanks for all you're doing up there in Canada when it comes to getting people aware of our environmental issues. There's quite a few, so I appreciate what you're doing up there, and I wish more people were doing what you're doing. It'd be a whole lot better world. So thank you, Joyce. Thanks for coming. Hey, well, tonight I have to be on my really good behavior. I mean, last week I had Brent as my producer. Tonight I've got Sharon back. She's here, make sure I stay on top of things and, behave, which is a full-time job. So let's get right down to the topic, and that's packing for our trip. Now, there's basically two ways in which we can do this. We travel via our own vehicle, or we travel by plane, we fly somewhere and then rent a vehicle. So first and foremost, okay, when it comes to driving our own vehicles, what I have found for most people, most photographers I should say, not that photographers aren't people, but we're special people, okay, is that typically when we have our own vehicles, we take way too much stuff, really way too much stuff. And the one problem with that is when you have too much stuff, you have too many choices. And with too many choices, photography tends to slow down or kind of get muddied. What's the right thing to have with us? So you might think about, if you drive your own vehicle a lot of places, because some people point blank have a fear of flying, other people don't like the hassle of flying, you might just think about packing as if you were going to fly, even if your own vehicle, just so you minimize what you take and maximize what you use, which is kind of the idea. So, for us here, a couple questions coming up. Hey, Andrew, thanks for coming on. Don, hey, thanks for being here. Krishna, hey, if I'm massacring your name, I apologize, but I think it's pronounced Krishna. You got the MP3. Hey, it's a great bag. And I appreciate you doing that. The version 2 really came out gorgeous. Gary, thanks for dropping by. Now, when it comes to planning for any kind of trip, the first thing I think about is how I'm going to get to my location. Either am I driving my own personal truck or am I flying? Now, like I just mentioned, if I am going to drive my own truck, I still pack as if I'm flying. Then that means I'm going to take minimal stuff. Now, when I fly, the first thing I do is I look at the aircraft I'm going to be flying in. You have your commuter planes, your smaller planes, then you have your basic commercial planes like your 737 or your Airbus, things like that. Now, right off the bat, that knowledge is going to dictate, well, first and foremost, the camera gear I'm going to take and how I'm going to take it. And that's really important when it comes to packing your gear. Now, thanks for the clarification. I am actually getting something right, pronouncing some English. That makes me happy. So, right off the bat, I'm going to take typically minimal camera gear that maximize my shooting based on the aircraft I'll be flying in. So let me give you a couple examples. First and foremost, if I'm going to go shoot landscape, okay, most of the time I'm going to take the small Think Tank Advantage Plus. Now, I make my own set of photo packs, but the reason why wheel photo bags came out originally was long ago, one photographer, a very famous one, who was carrying a bag on his left shoulder forever. He's a photojournalist. He sat there and he actually had his spine x-rayed and he had a whole curve in it. And his spine the shape of his spine had been altered because the very heavy camera bag he'd been carrying for decades on his shoulder. And in all seriousness, it's still just a photograph, right? Giving yourself that kind of a lifelong health issue, carrying camera gear, okay, right off the bat, that's an issue. So for doing landscape work, I'm just going to take the Advantage Plus. And to see what gear I would put in it, make sure you go to the website. I have the packing videos there. You can see what gear I would take with me for landscape work. Now, if I'm going to go photograph, for example, aircraft, okay, and I'm going to do anything from statics to air, vast majority of the time, I'm still going to take the Advantage Plus. And that bag will fit in the overhead of any commuter flight as well as any big commercial flight. Now, that will limit the gear I take, the bodies and lenses. Now, as I change what I'm going to go photograph from projects to wildlife, I'm going to grow the bag size. I'm going to get bigger and bigger. So somebody just mentioned the MP3. Great photo pack. Now, why would I take the MP3 over a roller bag? Because where I have to actually go, I have to carry the bag, and there's no way of rolling it. That's kind of my own personal parameter. And that's really important for the start of how you're going to pack for this trip. So I see I got questions coming up. Let's see what's going on. Moose, are light meters outdated? Question from Robert. So that's a really good question, Robert. And it depends where you are in your photography and what you want to do as a storyteller. Now, personally, and I only speak from my own experience, when it comes to a light meter, I base everything on this. I don't base it on what the camera is telling me. Now, the camera will give me good advice, okay? I use the matrix metering on that icon. It's going to give me a shutter speed and f-stop. The f-stop is one I'm going to select because I'm using aperture priority. And then it's going to give me a shutter speed based on stepless shutter speeds. Now, I'm going to take that advice and always run it past what I think the exposure should be, because I'm exposing for emotion. Exposure equals emotion. So for myself, where I'm at after doing this for 40 years, light meter's not going to help me in any way, shape, or form. Now, back in the day when I shot 4x5 or in the studio with a flash meter, those were important tools back then. This is before TTL and 4x5 cameras didn't have a built-in light meter to give you a reference point. I would highly encourage people, though, to learn basic daylight, which is taking your ISO and converting it into a shutter speed, putting it with f16 with a full sun at basically high noon, and then start understanding how you want to see that light and expose that light to tell your story. So a light meter is just another tool, and if it helps you get your story onto that page, then it's not outdated, okay? And that's really important. You got to do it for your photography. Hey, Patrick, thanks for popping by. Appreciate it. Andrew, the CLL2 soft case. I'm not sure what you're asking. Do I carry lenses in just that case? I don't, for a number of reasons. The first and foremost is that case only carries that lens. And if you're like me and you're a gearaholic, one case isn't enough. So, example, this last trip where I got this sunburned nose in Florida, I literally had shipped to the location a Pelican case of lights that was about 48 pounds. I literally had 210 pounds that I checked in, more lighting gear, and then personal gear. And then I had my large think tank airport V2 security, another 40 pounds, and a briefcase. That's how much gear I took with me. So any case that I take, first and foremost, has to make it so I can actually move about. One of my only panics when it comes to traveling is when I get to the airport, getting from my vehicle to the ticket counter, and then from the baggage claim to my rental car. You know, how am I going to manage that? That's the one thing I actually kind of worry about. The rest of the time, I'm going to use the bags that's going to take my gear. Now, if you're doing the math, wondering how I'm taking all that physical weight with me, when you fly 160,000 miles a year, there are certain perks that come from airlines. One of them is you can check in a lot of weight, and that I use to the fullest because it cuts down the expenses of FedExing things back and forth. So, Andrew, okay, yeah, I understand that case is for the long lens. If I'm taking a long lens, let's say for my 800 millimeter, I'm going to take my MP3 V2 bag because it will carry not only 800 millimeter, but as you'll see on the website, bodies and lenses, everything I need so when I get off the plane, I can go to work. And that's one big parameter when you pack that you have to think about that I really don't think about is you, as far as I'm concerned, are really fortunate because you have the luxury of going out and shooting, for lack of better terms, for the fun of it. And while I go out and shoot for the fun of it and with great passion and it brings just a lot of enjoyment to my life, it also has to do with doing a job, creating that story, that visual set of images that I can bring back to the client actually makes all that travel, all that gear possible. So that puts a constraint on me, and so one bag for one lens I just couldn't do. The other thing that I'm kind of paranoid about is theft, okay? Way back when, so it would have been 29 years ago, because Brent was 2. Well, Jake wasn't even born yet. So it would have been 30 years ago. 30 years ago, we were working out of a vehicle, and I had the old 800 back then, the old 800 manual focus, out shooting. Car got broken into. Stuff was all stolen. And that experience has really kind of guided a lot of ways that I do things now. For example, if I go to someplace and I'm going to assemble my camera gear to go out shooting, walk on trail, this will sound a little bad, but I actually won't assemble my gear at my vehicle. I will grab the tripod, the 800 with the body attached, I walk away and I go stand by somebody else's vehicle, and I put it all together. So some bad guy's watching, they think I got out of another car instead of my car. So that one single long lens bag, it just screams camera gear, and that's one of the last things you want to do. That's why I like, for example, my MP series, those photo packs. They don't look like photo packs. And the think tank, I put little tchotchke on them, and in some cases just to kind of disguise the fact there's camera gear in them. Krishna, what is a good bag for hiking and photography? I do have M3 as a real bag, especially when I... Okay, so Christian, I answer your question. I personally don't hike with camera gear in a photo pack for one big reason. Most of the time, Murphy's Law is out there. You're out there walking, and if your gear is in your photo pack, what's going to happen? The critter's going to show up in front of you, and boom, you're going to have the picture, but you're not going to be able to get stuff out in time. So I only go in the field with the gear that I'm going to shoot with. I don't backpack in forever and shoot things. The biggest thing for what we do here at WRP, everything's kind of time centric. I have yet to figure out how to get more than 24 hours out of a day and 365 days out of a year. So I really look at time, and time is really important. And I've been fortunate that the projects where I have to get somewhere, I'm working with somebody who either has a helicopter or some other means of getting me and my stuff to that site as fast as possible. So spending 2 hours to walk 1 mile, 1 hour to walk 2 miles. Got that backwards. 1 hour to walk 2 miles. That time factor, I try to avoid it. So I don't have a direct answer for you because I don't actually, my own style of photography, I don't go that way about it. If Matt asks if Nikon adds a serious mirrorless camera to their lineup, would you consider having a mirrorless kit for trips that lightweight, or would you always prefer SLRs? Well, so it's a what if question, and there's no way of answering a what if question. First and foremost, at this point in time, physical weight is not an issue when it comes to my camera gear. In fact, I like things that are bigger and heavier. When it comes to proper hand holding, it makes a big difference. Lightweight would not help me. 2, I don't know what this mythical mirrorless camera might be. So would I use it? It's like any tool. Let me pick a tool. The new Nikon 180 to 400 with a built-in 1.4 for $12,000. And I have in my case a 200 or 400. Now, I've already written about this. Now, that 200 or 400 not only is already paid for and it's already here, when I did a search, the number of times I actually use that lens for myself, and gotta remember, I'm in the business, and so it's a capital, gains, it's a asset, it's a lot of things involved. Just buying that one lens, even though it has that built-in teleconverter, and it probably, everything I'm seeing, it's a tad sharper, I have no financial gain to do that. It doesn't solve any of my problems. Now, if a miraculous mirrorless system comes out, and you gotta understand, I don't crave mirrorless, okay? The mirror doesn't bother me. I like seeing through the lens. I don't want an image that's generated by the camera. I want to see through the lens. I've been doing this for 40 years. That's how I operate. It's not going to get me anywhere, and it's not going to help me pack for anything. You're still going to have to deal with all the, other things that we haven't got to yet when it comes to traveling. For example, when it comes to packing, there's 2 sets. And remember, a lot of this is on the website, on Moose's camera bag, what I put in the check-in and what I put in the carry-on. But when I check in gear, it's gear that if it gets delayed or lost, knock on wood, that's not been an issue with myself United. I've always been able to work. But I still think about Murphy's Law. So whatever I carry on with me, it's so when I hit the ground, I can work. So example, all the batteries in the cameras are charged. All the batteries in the flash are charged. I have the lenses. I have anything that I need with me. When I go on the plane, it's on me. Okay, so when I get off the plane, I can function. That means the chargers and cords, readers, all that paraphernalia is in the check luggage. And there's many reasons for that. So let's talk about that check luggage for a second. I see I got a question from Andrew. Where do you find the MP3? You can buy the MP1, 3, or 7 B&H or Think Tank. You head to my website, you go to the scroll to the very bottom, you'll see a link. You click on it, it'll take you right to the Think Tank website. You can order it and you'll have it instantly. It goes out the next day. Now that checked-in luggage, and I'll get you a question in a second here, Tom. That checked-in luggage, it has, for example, the tripod. And the tripod does not have the head attached, okay? It has my cleaning kit. And I should preface this by, when I'm about to go on a trip, if I have the luxury of time, because sometimes my trips are literally, seriously, I fly in and out of Reno, and I will fly out of Reno, and I'll come back from a trip. I go to the truck, and literally I just swap out bags, and then I go back and I check in and go to another flight to another location. That is not untypical for my schedule. So, but when I have the luxury of time, I tend to get stuff out days prior to my actually packing. So that includes my cleaning kit. And the whole cleaning kit you can find on the website or KLB1. All the contents, very important. And that's in one Think Tank cord control bag. And Think Tank makes all these great little bags for holding all these things. Another bag is my chargers for the D5, the D750, the AA batteries for the SB5000. All that's in another bag. And it's really important you understand that for protection of your items. For example, I use a big Eagle Creek rolling duffel bag. And so picture a duffel bag in your mind, all right? And it's long and it's kind of rectangular. And it's either going to go on the conveyor belt on the flat bottom, but majority of the time, they flip that bag over. So the top of the bag, the part that you'd rest when you're packing it, that's going to be the top. And the part that you open up, the big flat, will be the bottom, okay? So it's going to go through this way through the conveyor belt. So when you do that, you want to pack everything this way inside your bag. You could say vertically. That gives it so when it goes through, you got to realize that bag, it's going to have other things on top of it once it gets in the belly of the plane. So if it's flat, okay, it's more likely to have damage than if it's vertical. So I have everything in my bag vertical. So my cleaning kits are vertical, okay? The tripod, I take the head off the tripod and I put the tripod head in vertically, not flat. So you have to be kind of creative when it comes to your packing. I use a lot of Eagle Creek inserts to keep things organized and things together, because at some point you're going to go through normally a small regional airport. Not the big ones so much, the little ones. It will go through the X-ray. TSA will open it up. If you have all your items in those Eagle Creek organizers, they'll take that out and then they'll swab it and put it back in. A lot less chance of things getting lost, misplaced, or, God forbid, stolen. But remember to pack everything vertically. Think vertically. So chargers, which have electronics in it, hard drives, if you put those in your check luggage, anything like that, you can put it vertically. Now, I had Tom ask me, where is my computer? My computer is with me, and it goes on the carry-on. I take 2 carry-ons with me. So if you are, for example, a United flyer, you don't buy the cheapest ticket, which puts you in group 5, allowed with only 1 carry-on that has to go under the seat. I'm going to spend the extra money, so I have the ability to take on 2 carry-ons. One goes under the seat, one goes in the overhead. The overhead would be the camera bag. Under the seat would be the briefcase, which would have the computer and hard drives. Now, when it comes to the carry-on briefcase and hard drives, I'm kind of on the overachiever side of that. Let's put it that way. For example, so I have, the main drive that holds my images, but then I have 4 other drives, each one of them 4 terabytes. That has, you could say, all the images that I take with me so I can take care of clients on the road. Then I've got my time machine. I have another auxiliary 2 terabyte drive that has miscellaneous things like software, things like that, in case things, it's like a emergency drive, things go down. So I have all those drives in that briefcase along with my computer, which is a MacBook 15-inch Retina. All that goes with me onto the plane, not in the belly. And technically, you're not legally allowed to check your computer anymore. Okay, so in this packing process, tripod, cleaning kit, chargers, readers, along with underwear, socks, shirts, all the rest of the stuff will go into the check luggage. Now, I take extra things with me, things like a knee brace because I have an arthritic knee. I take extra things like chapstick, little things like that. I take a spare lock for my suitcase. I take a spare chapstick, little trinkets like that. Those go into the check luggage. All the plates, I don't walk around with really right stuff plates connected to my camera bodies, and I don't have them in my luggage or my check-in luggage because it adds extra weight. And between you and me, if they actually weighed my camera bag, it's well over the limit. So that's something you have to realize, that there is actually a weight limit for your check-in luggage. And not to scare you, but my good friend builds these things, and he always reminds me that the overheads, there's actually a weight limit for those overheads and a G-force rating. And typically, if you ever watched, like you should, those drills about how you're supposed to, in case of emergency on a plane, that pre-flight stuff, well, tucking your head down in parts because those overheads tend to separate from the plane body. They crash down. They tend to rest on top of the seats, if not crush those seats. And that's typically because there's too much camera gear in those overheads. So there's a real weight limit. So you got to think about that stuff. Let me see. I got some other questions here. Andrew, are you flying first class, I assume? I don't buy first class tickets. No, sir. My account would like to because it's a big write-off. But any first class I get is because I get an upgrade. Let's see here. Love those Eagle Creek packing modules. Yeah, Andrew, those things they're worth their weight in gold. I have a whole bunch of them, and they work great, as well as the small think tank organizers. Do I travel with a Wacom? Jason, no, I don't. So right over there, I have the Wacom 24 HD, which does stay here in the office and is the primary monitor for the digital darkroom. On the road, I don't even carry a mouse anymore. I do everything with a touchpad. And I tell a story a lot because, back in the day, I'd watch my good friend Scott Kelby do everything on touchpad and all this stuff in Photoshop. And I'm like, how do you do that, man? Well, now I do everything with a touchpad. And I still wonder, with these big claws, how do I do it? So, yeah, I don't take a Wacom. So it's all pretty easy going. All right, so the rest of that part of the check luggage, it goes in the belly of the plane. Now, a lot of people have the basic restrictions of 50 pounds, okay? One thing to think about, what I always recommend to people, where I live up here in the Sierra, we have no humidity. So all our clothes, okay, is really kind of dry. Now, if I take this and I go to Florida, right, which is anything but dry. God bless you people who live in Florida, because I could not deal with that humidity and many other places, okay? But I go down there, and literally we open up our luggage, right? Zip and open it up. And instantly the luggage is going to weigh 3 pounds heavier. We can count on it because of our dry clothes soak up all that moisture from the humidity, and instantly our bags weigh more. So you got to think about that. Think about those part of the processes. So, for example, okay, if you're going to, in my case, go from the Sierra to Florida, let's talk about simple things like shoes, right? Now, I'm going to wear one kind of shoe in Florida and another kind of shoe traveling around. I like to wear closed-toed shoes on a plane because there's a lot of sharp things underneath those seats, along with gum and other icky stuff, right? But I'm not going to wear those on the beaches of Florida. And the shoes that I wear in Florida, they're all plastic. They don't soak up moisture. So I think about things like that when it comes to weight, because when we can weigh our bags before we leave the house, we know how much they weigh. we really don't know the weight of our bag until we get to the counter, and that's the last place you want to find that your bag is now 52.5 pounds, and you've got somebody on the other side of that check-in counter who's going to stick to all the rules, and you might not have any priority, and you're going to pay that extra money. So think about things like that. Now, people go to Africa, okay? A couple things. First of all, Africa has serious weight limits. Now, depending on where you're going in Africa, for example, some places in South Africa, that weight limit can go away with a $20 bill. Poof. It disappears, any of those weight limits. You want to talk to people who've gone there and figure that out. Other places in Africa, they ain't going to help you, okay? Some flights will allow you to take a carry-on into the bush. Some won't, okay? You need to figure that out. Because if, for example, you can fly all the way to Africa, and you don't have to worry about your carry-on until you get to that small regional plane, which could be like a Cessna Caravan or something smaller, right? And you have to worry about CG and useful load. It's not only just a matter of practicality. If you're flying, it's a matter of life or death. You have that stuff correct. So in those cases, let's take for example the MP1 V2 photo pack. What I often do is I'll have the 800 in the long lens compartment, but I will have some of my convertible shirts packed in there as well. They don't add much weight, but they add a lot of padding, and that gives you a piece of security in case you find that one person who maybe that $20 bill doesn't work for them. Okay, so you've got to be a little creative and think through, which means you do your homework. Okay, and probably the biggest piece of homework you need to do is the camera gear you take with you. Let me see. I see some stuff coming up. Where do I put my Relay Right Stuff tripod? Like I mentioned, Andrew, I put my tripod in the check luggage. I never carry it on. A lot of reasons. First and foremost is you're telling everybody you got camera gear. And camera gear weighs weight. So if you go on a plane, you have no priority status, like you're not a gold medallion or 1K or things like that. They're going to look for you, and you're going to be the one they're going to pick on when things get tight. So everything goes in that check luggage. Yeah, good dog. Weight limits disappear, but physics still remains. Very much so. Have you ever shipped your gear or extra time to meet you somewhere? Jason, yeah, like I just mentioned, I shipped gear just this last trip down to Florida because I maxed out how much I could take on a plane. Back in the days of film and the issues we had with X-ray, I would ship all of my film to a location, and then I'd ship it all back after I shot it. So yeah, shipping is part of it. You gotta, again, do your homework and think of what's happening. There are times where I will rent certain tools, and when I rent that tool, I'll have it shipped to a location, and then I will ship it back from that location back to where I rented it from. Now, when it comes to that camera gear, I can't encourage you enough to really think through what you need. Let's just start with camera bodies. A lot of people think they need a backup camera body, something I talked on about a podcast a little while ago. Backup camera bodies, okay, unless you are Butterfingers by nature, let's put it that way, and you have to worry about stuff, in that sense, you might not need that backup camera body. And in many cases, that lens might just be more prudent to your photography than an extra body. Okay. Now you have to do your homework, know where you're going, okay, what your subject is, your style of photography, and right off the bat, just if you're not even traveling, that could be a real stumbling block. I understand that. So you have to think about it, okay? But you want to take with you the least amount of gear that will do the most amount of good, okay? You got to think directly what's happening. So to use myself for example, I went down to Florida working on our Normandy Bound project. I really only needed 3 lenses, 8 to 15 fish, 24-1.4, the 105-1.4. That's all I needed. That's all I used that whole time, except for one lens, the 14 to 24 I had on the D850 when I did the 24-hour time lapse. So I only needed 4 lenses, 1 or 2 bodies. Okay, that was it, and that took care of the whole project. Now, I know we're photographers and we love gear, but the practicalities of life is the more homework you do in the beginning, the better defined you take your gear, you'll find your photography is better in the end. Now, if you're talking about what myself again this last trip, 2 prime lenses and 2 zooms is what I took with me. You have to think about what you're going to shoot, what's going to be the best kind of gear. And then you want to take the minimal amount of gear that's going to maximize your shooting time. Because you got to remember, the one parameter that's important to this whole thing is you got to have fun. I mean, if you're not having fun, okay, it's not worth it. It's just simply not worth it. Let's see, let me get some other questions coming up here. Have I used the C in Summit bags? I have not. I have not. Sorry, I have not. Andrew, Botswana Spiffy Safari, what lens are a must? Well, here's the thing, Andrew. I have no idea who you are, your style of photography, your abilities. So, how can I honestly recommend a lens to you? I mean, I could quote a whole bunch of lenses, but without knowing your style of photography, how can I help you? Second, let's say you're going to Africa, you're going for just birds, okay? Well, I only know how I like to take birds, and that's with the 800 millimeter lens. So for me to recommend to you a $17,000 lens, I think is a little bit unreasonable of me to recommend a lens to you that's so expensive, especially going to a location where a very expensive lens is going to make you have neon lights and searchlights and a little glow about you. Everybody's going to say, wow, he's got an expensive lens. So you've got to figure out what you're going to see, where you're going to go. And it depends on the guide you're going to be with, the other people in the vehicle you're going to be with. There's so many variables. And I remember when I did homework for my first Africa trip, people kept saying 7200 is all you need, maybe a teleconverter, and that's all you need. And I'm like, I took an 800 millimeter, had the 1.25 on it, so I shot 1,000 millimeters a lot. And I came back with a lot of bird photographs I really love from Africa. But in good consciousness to recommend that to you, I can't. You're going to have to figure out what works best for you and what trip you're doing and go from there. Hey, Andrew. Yeah, you're telling your wife I recommend a $17,000 lens. Let me tell you, okay, how many spouses have called this office and read me the riot act because their husband said, well, Moose said I need blah, 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 okay? I've heard that for a long time. So you go ahead and tell her, if it gets you that lens, then, okay? Probably won't, though. Sorry, buddy. Let's see here. Okay, let's keep on going. I got a little more time. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is packing. People worry about padding. Having lots of padding either in their camera bag or in their checked-in luggage. Now, if you look at the physics of packing and padding, what people do, it doesn't work out. It doesn't help you, but other than minimize how much stuff you can take. So, for example, my MP1 photo pack, all right, it has minimal dense foam in it for a very good reason. It's not going to help you. Now, camera gear, lenses and bodies, just talking about those two things, right? Chargers, cords aren't really important. It's our babies, our bodies, and our lens. Now, if you start dropping those, no matter how much padding, from 2 feet or higher, okay, the impact is going to cause damage that you can't see no matter what you've got in there, okay? They're not made for that kind of a G-force. Now, the G, you got to remember, is, stuff is falling, and then it's going to go, it's going to hit something. It's that moment of that's going to cause the damage. Now, the most common kind of damage is what Nikon would call impact damage. And your lens barrel, right, is round, and something will hit it right one spot. And that one spot, if my finger could do it, it won't. That's going to take that perfect circle and make it out of round. And that one little spot that's out of round, that's what the lens is going to catch on that spot. There's no amount of padding that's going to fix that. That's just the nature of our camera gear, gravity and physics, okay? So don't sit there and think you have to sit there and pack things. I mean, literally I saw one person who put all their gear in very thick socks, wrapped it with bubble wrap, and put it in their camera bag, and then they said, I can't carry much stuff. It's like, how can you? It's all padding. There's no gear. Now, the amount of stuff, wrong word, the pads in my MP photo pack series with that dense foam is proven from drop tests to be the maximum amount of thickness you need for 2 feet or less of a drop. Anything more than 2 feet, there ain't nothing that's going to protect you. But here's the thing. If you think you're going to drop your camera bag, you need to think the whole thing all over again, right? Because I don't know about you, but I don't go out the door going, yeah, I'm going to drop my camera bag today. I'm going to drop it, yeah, getting off the plane. I don't plan that way. I plan never to drop it. So I always have a hand on it. I keep really good care of it. The one last thing I want to talk about, which is kind of packy related, is we all have, at least everybody I know of, has at least one roller photo bag, photo pack. And they roll that bag from their house to the car to the ticket counter onto the plane, then the plane down to baggage, and then baggage to the rental car up to the hotel room. So that camera body is going like this the whole time, right? It's not hermetically sealed, okay? All that little stuff that's in our mirror boxes, okay, is going to get on that sensor, no matter what camera you've got. That vibration, it can't help itself. So whenever you get on location, the first thing I always tell people to do is take time. Change the clock in your camera to the current time zone. Check your sensor for dust, okay? It's just like when you buy a brand new camera, it comes back from repair. What do you think the carriers do with that gear? You think they take your box and go, oh, it's a digital camera. Don't move it. It's bouncing in trucks and everything. That stuff's going to get onto your sensor. So don't worry about your sensor being 100% clean when you leave on a trip. Just make sure you check it before you start shooting after you arrive after your trip. Okay? Let me see if I have any other questions with there. Andrew, I have a 20 with your name on it. Are you trying to bribe me? If you want, remember, you can sit there and put money into our documentary, and I'll send you something in return. $50 or more, get you one of these bad boys, and they're gorgeous. But thank you, Andrew. I appreciate you taking time, as well as all of you, for stopping by and watching the broadcast. I know I kind of sprung this on many of you. I didn't usually every other week kind of thing, but next week I'm in the Sand Hills of Nebraska working with greater prairie chickens and sharp-tailed grouse. And then I'm on the road, so I'm not going to have there ain't no internet where I'm going to Nebraska. That's for sure next week. And the week after that, my schedule, it's that time of season. I always know it's busy because I look at my phone and I see I've got 7 tickets purchased right now, which means I got at least 7 flights coming up the next 45 days. So things are busy. So I thank you for taking time and being with me. I hope you guys got something out of this. Remember to tell your friends. And more importantly, remember that to make every click your story. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.